Hello, this is Ugo Uche with Road to Resolutions, and in this video, I want to talk about how beliefs hinder or help our ability to solve problems. One of the things that sold me on cognitive behavioral therapy was specifically the aspect of how beliefs um, influence us in our lives, and I was sold on it. And I see I see beliefs as a flow chart. So, if you ever seen a flow chart of any kind, it starts with a big bubble on the top, and then it has a tree-like diagram that it's a tree-like structure that goes from top to bottom, left to right. If you start, if yes, then you go left, yes, 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 no. If no, then you go right, and then yes leads to another bubble, no leads to another bubble, and oftentimes the no will lead to a dead end bubble. There's nothing attached to it. You're just dead end. And I see when there are certain types of beliefs that we buy into that leads us to stagnation in our personal lives, in which where we become stuck. We don't want to lift a finger to solve our problems because we just believe that we're powerless. And an example of such a belief, I came across a video on my YouTube feed this morning. It was by the Young Turks, and the video was about the disparity between CEO pay. That's not actually the title of the video. Um, um, I will put the link to the video in the description box below. But the premise of the video is that CEO pay is ungodly high, and the average pay for workers in the United States is ungodly low. So PCO pay is like 12 million to $30,000, which is the average worker pay. And the host seemed to be harping on how unfair this is, and something must be done about this, and etc., etc., etc. Now, the problem I have with the video is this: it feels it feels like a scam, and I don't want to make this video specifically about my political beliefs or my economic beliefs whatsoever. But you know, I kind of felt insulted. I felt like my intellect was being insulted in that, am I to believe that in the event the average CEO pay was reduced, that this will automatically increase the average worker pay? You know, the answer to that question is when most people actually take the time away from their emotions concerning how unfair it is. The reality is that there really isn't any correlation between the amount of money any worker brings home and the amount of money a CEO brings home. That there's no correlation. If you want to increase your income, there are certain things that you must do, that you can do to increase your income. Um, Whether a CEO takes home 12 million or gets fired or whatever has really nothing to do with you. I mean, yes, we're all connected, but specifically speaking, in the realms of how you live your life. And a belief like that appeals to the primitive brain, the aspect of the primitive brain that doesn't want to take personal responsibility for an unfavorable condition. It's so rigid, you know, and it just appeals to that side. Yes, if I'm in a pitiful condition in my life, um, and someone says, "Oh, it's somebody else's fault, and they did this to you, and that's why you're wallowing in self pity and whatever." It's such a relief not to take personal responsibility. Now, on the flip side of that, you know, I understand that most people don't like to take personal responsibility because, based on their early life experiences, um, a call to action, a call to take personal responsibility, came along with shaming. And so when most people want to hold themselves accountable, they can't help but shame themselves, and so they rather not deal with the entire process. So I have a video out there on how to change your narrative, how to accept yourself unconditionally, and I also have a blog post on that, and I think I'll link that in the description box below. But the bottom line is that you should accept yourself unconditionally. You know, not necessarily for the sake of feeling good, even though it's really awesome to feel good about yourself, but for the sake of moving past failures and mistakes, getting back on your feet, and pursuing your goals and your ambitions, etc., etc. But regardless, back to this video. The video in of itself, it felt like it was calling out to a primitive way of thinking. In terms you blame other people, for your own suffering, rather than taking personal accountability. Now, this is not to suggest that bad things don't happen to people, good or bad. Bad things happen to people, good things happen to people. But in the event, it's sort of like if somebody punches me in the nose and I have a bloody nose, or if somebody visits any harm on me and I am hospitalized, while it is not my fault that harm was visited upon me, I am responsible for my own recovery. I can wallow in self-pity, or I can walk to the best of my ability to, to heal, to the best that I can. If I give up, that's really on me. And the reality is that no matter what is done to the other person, whatever is done to the other person has no bearing on my recovery. So even if they are arrested and taken to jail or publicly flogged, etc., etc., I'm still responsible for my own recovery. And, life is not fair, but that doesn't mean, I think I like to think that a balance is personal power that we have in our personal lives, the ability to make choices, even if our array of choices are not pleasant. But so that's my goal in making this video, is to talk about how certain beliefs hinder us, and that's one belief. I would say that people should become aware, get into the habit of questioning what you believe, especially if it comes from your early life experiences. Get into the habit of questioning it, and if adhering to this belief has helped you so far. Because oftentimes when we buy into antiquated beliefs, there are things we do to our own hindrance that we're not aware of. And if you're in a place where you feel that you're stuck, or you keep coming up against a brick wall after brick wall, then there are certain things that you believe, that keep you from performing at your very best. And there are certain people and organizations out there that continue to put these beliefs out there to hook you in to whatever their agendas are. Let me see, what else do I want out? In terms of beliefs that hinder us, I want to talk about one size doesn't fit all. And one size doesn't fit all is all beliefs that are bad, beliefs that don't help us. They usually have a cookie cutter element to them. And a popular one, and forgive me for being vague here, but a popular one would be, the idea that certain goals can only be achieved through one way and one way or only. Such as if you want to educate yourself in a certain field, you have to go to college. Or a popular one really is if you want to become economically well off. That doesn't make any sense. It simply isn't not true. There are more than one ways to skin a cat. There are more than one ways economic success, if that's what you are looking for. Like, the definition of success is different for many people. When I encounter people, whether I'm clients or people I just meet around or on an internet forum, and I target whatever, I call out their belief as being antiquated and not working out for them, or I ask them, how is this working out for you? They become very They become very defensive and very upset, and I'll point it out. I'll say, how does this belief conform to your personal identity? So the problem with any belief that's sort of cookie cutter or has a one size fits all mentality, there's a 90% chance that it doesn't conform to who you are as a person. It has nothing to do with you whatsoever. You've been conditioned to conform to it because you're a social animal. We're all social animals, and we all have a desire to be accepted and to belong to any social group, and so that's really the number one reason why we buy into beliefs that just don't work for us. And so it takes a great deal of courage to buy out of beliefs that aren't helping us achieve our goals. We have the power to change, and the power to change comes from the choice to buy into beliefs and to buy out of beliefs. In another video, I think I'll talk about, a lot of people, even people who become aware that their beliefs and values are antiquated and just don't work out for them, they continue to hold on to that beliefs and values because they believe that this is the only way they can get some of their needs met, specifically needs of acceptance and belonging to any particular group. And there is courage, to buy out of that belief and do what's best for you, and believing that you're not going to be alone, or that you're not, that you'll be able to connect with other people. But I'll talk about that in another video. Well, that's all for now. My name is Ugo Uche. My website is road2resolutions.com. That's road, the number 2, resolutions.com. And thank you for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and share with as many people who you believe would be interested or benefit from it.